Welcome back guys to another Odyssey video. I've been carefully crafting and improving my most powerful builds I have ever made, and today I will show you my ultimate new best warrior build for 2024. This build will deal up to 800 million damage to nearby targets, and it is 100% the best warrior build I have ever created. This video will also include a 100% free variant, we will have 100% crit chance, it will be 100% invincible, and we will also have 100% guaranteed assassinations. All this is achieved in a combination with the most powerful items in the game. And none of these 3 items is actually pay to win. You can get all of them for free. And you don't even have to learn any fancy tricks for this build. It will be so easy to make and so easy to play with. You can even use any weapon type you want with this build, even if you prefer daggers, swords, or even heavy blades and staffs or spears. And you will of course also get all the same damage with all these weapons, including the crazy assassin damage to nearby, which not only works for any type of assassination, but it will also work for attacks like hero strike and rush assassination. Speaking of rush assassination, previous warrior builds and especially the tank builds had the issue that you were not able to assassinate any enemy. But with this build you can not only assassinate every enemy with a normal assassination, it will also make sure that you can use it with rush assassination. This makes it by far the best warrior build ever without sacrificing anything else. However, being 100% unkillable of course comes to a price, so our damage will be a little lower than normal. We will get around 850,000 for light attack, 1.2 million for a heavy attack, around 4 million for the charged heavy attack, 2 million for Ring of Chaos, 8 million for Fury, and around 14 million still for an overpower attack, which is quite enough to beat the game anyway. 5 million damage for Devastating Shot, and of course 6 million damage goes for the Predator Shot. Multi-Shot and Bull Rush will be around 3 million damage, and of course for the assassinations you don't have to worry about anything, because any normal assassination will be guaranteed thanks to the Knife of Dalvon, and even rush assassinations will be so powerful that you will be able to kill every single mercenary even on the highest difficulty, and Ares Madness will take care of your enemies if you ever run into trouble. Even if you want to attack and assassinate someone from time to time, you can still harness the amazing power of dealing up to 800 million damage to every nearby target. This build is so simple but so great, and I'm so afraid I have never found this before. However, one small trick I would encourage you to check out is the infinite torch healing, because whenever you run a build with only 25% health and you get hit, you can simply switch to your torch and back to your weapon to fully heal yourself, which is a really nice trick because you will no longer need any adrenaline to heal yourself. But now let's finally check out the build, guys. This build has 138,000 warrior damage and 415,000 assassin damage, and considering it is a complete tank build, this is a really high number. Thanks to the Bighorn bow, we will get all its 6,495 DPS added to our left melee weapon, which almost doubles the warrior damage for our left melee weapon, and it will also use the same warrior damage for shooting arrows. All this comes from a glitch because the Bighorn bow magically counts as warrior damage instead of counting towards your hunter damage, and it is the only item in the game that is so broken. So you absolutely have to get this item to maximize your damage, and you can use your 200 free credits to get it for free. The next really important item in this game is the Knife of Dalvon, because the Knife of Dalvon gives you guaranteed assassinations. No matter how high the assassin damage is, you will always be able to assassinate your targets when you have this weapon equipped. However, this effect does not apply for a rush assassination. For a rush assassination we have to make sure that our assassin damage is at least over 400,000, because with 400,000 assassin damage multiplied with at least 575% critical damage and multiplied with the 150% from the rush assassination ability, you will get over 4 million assassin damage, which is a safe margin to completely wipe out every mercenary even on nightmare difficulty. And in order to get that amount of assassin damage without sacrificing any warrior damage, we have to use the hunter damage conversion. So we will convert all the excess hunter damage from your gear, from your masteries and from your abilities to give you around 40% additional assassin damage. If you used instead the assassin damage conversion, you'll gain for warrior damage, which stays the same, but instead you would lower your assassin damage. So the hunter conversion is the way to go. In the left slot we of course use a perfect sword with warrior damage, critical damage and damage swords, and if you don't have the DLC with the damage conversion, you can of course also use armor penetration instead. If you want to use a different weapon type than swords, you simply go for a dagger with warrior damage, damage with daggers and the hunter damage conversion, or go for a blunt or a heavy blade or a staff or a spear that has warrior damage, critical damage and damage with that corresponding weapon type. You can then simply use the same legendary engraving on it. A perfect sword with warrior damage, damages swords and critical damage can easily be obtained from the Friend in Need quest in Attica. Simply lie to Hathor to keep the sword at the end of the quest. A perfect blunt can be obtained from the chest in the temple in Boeotia in Thebes. For a perfect spear, you can consider to get the Harvester of Time from the shop, or simply rely on blacksmith reloading to get any weapon type you want. The damage conversion itself is unlocked when you craft a spear in the Atlantis Forge in the 3rd episode of the Atlantis add-on. However, if you don't have the add-on, you can simply replace it with armor penetration as I said. On the second melee weapon slot we will place the Knife of Dalvun. However, we will normally not use this for playing, because only the left melee weapon is amplified and has the increased damage, and the weapon here in the right slot is only a complementary weapon that gives us a special ability for our assassinations. On this weapon we will engrave the plus 100% damage and health cap to 25%, because the other ability caps our health to 25% anyway. You will get this weapon when you play the free Corfu Island DLC once you escape the prison from the pirates. On the Big Bow itself, this time we will only engrave 10% crit chance, which gives us a perfect number of 100% crit chance without sacrificing any other slot for our build. You don't need any special item like the Copycat Sword or Stone Isobracers to get 100% crit chance, you only need what you already have anyway, which makes this build extremely simple to make for you. The only item that is a bit harder to obtain but still free to get is Oxesia's Helm of Darkness. Oxesia's Helm of Darkness is the only helmet in the game that has 30% melee resistance. And that makes it very special, because with this helmet we can achieve 100% melee resistance. That means no damage from any melee attacks without having to use the Spartan Javelin. The only problem is that this item only drops every 42 weeks from a weekly mercenary, but on September the 10th, 2024, this item will drop again. This will be the only date this year when you can obtain this item, so make sure you subscribe to this channel, then I will make a community post to remind you to get it. The bracers and every other item for this build can be obtained from the blacksmith. For the bracers we go for warrior damage, melee resistance, 10% crit chance and 100% critical damage, and on the belt we use the exact same engravings again as on the bracers, and on the torso we go for warrior damage, 10% all damage, 50% critical damage and 20% warrior damage. It is important that you do not use the Corfu engraving in this build, because we want to have 100% melee resistance, so we simply engrave another 20% warrior damage here on the torso, which you can do when you have fully upgraded your engraving. On the boots we do the same, we go for warrior damage, 100% critical damage, crit chance and another 20% warrior damage. However, if you want to increase your hunter damage for whatever reason, you can also go for 100% additional headshot damage but increased adrenaline consumption, but that would lower your warrior damage a tiny bit. If you're playing with different weapon types, you should also make sure that you add damage with heavy blunts and heavy blades on your torso, and damage with staffs and spears on your boots instead of the warrior damage. All this will give you a total value of 415% warrior damage, 60% damage swords, 100% crit chance, 575% critical damage, and of course the absolute secure 100% melee resistance, which will make you completely immune against all melee attacks. If you want to put even more assassin stuff in this build, you could go for assassin damage applies nearby on your bow, then you simply replace your bracers with the Stone Isobracers with additional melee resistance, and the Persian Warrior's Waistband with additional 100% critical damage. That will allow you to use the crazy assassin damage to nearby effect whenever you use an assassin ability. For the abilities and masteries, you will need around 200 ability points to make this build. We will start with 6th Sense, which will double all your hunter damage, then go for 2 points on Arrow Master, then you can either use Multi-Shot, Devastating Shot or Predator Shot. While Predator Shot is the strongest, Devastating Shot is much easier to use. Archery Master is really important to refill your first adrenaline segment, then you can invest 1 point to go for a bridge to get the Ghost Arrows of Artemis. While the Charged Heavy Take is a really cool ability that costs you absolutely no adrenaline, I also started to like Sparta Kick and especially the enhanced version of the Bull Rush ability in recent days very much. Of course, go for the usual Weapons Master, Gear Master for the damage and crit chance increases. If you also want, you can go for Flaming Attacks and use the additional 40% damage from Fire Mastery. Of course, don't forget Overpower Attack and the crazy RS Madness ability. Fury of the Bloodline will also be great to refill your adrenaline. If you don't own the Legacy add-on, you can also use Hero Strike instead. And of course, don't forget Ring of Chaos and Second Wind for your healing. In the Assassin tree, you should go for Shadow Assassin, which increases your assassin damage and also your critical damage. Of course, go for Rush Assassination, and of course Hero Strike, which will also deal all the assassin damage to all nearby enemies. Stealth Master will increase your overall damage overnight, and you can also go for Shadow of Nyx if you want to. For the basic mastery points, which will need no more than 200 points in total, you should place 12 points on crit chance, 12 points on crit damage, another 12 points on warrior damage, and then go for 8 on health, 8 on armor, 12 on melee, 8 on fire, and 8 on armor penetration. If you don't have enough points, then you can skip all the ones where I only put 8 on. Definitely go for 15 points on damage as swords, 12 points on crit chance at full health, 12 points on crit damage while full health, and then most important, go for 20 points on the chance to ignore half damage, because only when this ability hits 100%, it always gives you half the amount of damage. If you have well over 400 points, you should max out hunter damage, crit chance, crit damage, headshot, even the other hunter abilities. Go for a couple of points on range resistance and even for the adrenaline on headshot kill. In the warrior tab, max out warrior damage, health, armor, melee resistance, fire damage and armor penetration. And if you still have more points, you should also go for a couple of points on damage dealt restored as health, because that greatly helps if you get hit. In the assassin tree, you should max out damage whenever time is slowed down, assassin damage, damage as swords, totally go for all the crit stuff, damage while full health, still 20 points on chance to ignore half damage is really important, elemental resistance, a couple of adrenaline points, and damage on leads and bosses. I hope you will enjoy this build as much as I do. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.